right, let's get it.
All right.
So, what's up, Sunny? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself here?
Good, man. A little nervous?
Yeah.
This topic that we're going to talk about today, I was thinking about it for about 3 days now. And yesterday I could have come by to do the episode, but I postponed it.
Yep.
And I literally could have, but it's just thinking about this topic, talking about specifically gang life and the impact it has on our mental health, whether you've been affected by it directly or indirectly. Mm-hmm. So this topic is something that I kind of always skirted around whenever I would do any kind of public speaking. I would get very, I wouldn't go in depth with my story. So I would tell people I was in a bit of a gang growing up and, this is kind of what I saw. But today I really want to dive deep with everyone and share with you, because even when I started to tell you a few things, you were like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And share with everybody how maybe I got there. What are some contributing factors for myself that led me down that path, how it affected me mentally, emotionally, physically, how it affected my family, how it affected my friends, and the community. Yeah. So, let's get into it. Gang life episode.
No, it's a good topic, just because in our community, the communities around us in BC here, it is a big thing. And we've seen it, affect people from all ages. It's not just, just somebody that's kind of like us, grew up in the 90s into the 2000s. Nowadays, it's a lot easier to recruit people at a younger age. So we definitely want to pick your brain on little things that might be able to kind of give tidbits to even parents. Like if we have parents that are listening, they can kind of maybe pick up on something, because sometimes it's so hard to read a kid. Yeah. And we're so good at hiding things. So sometimes it's just good for people to kind of pick a brain of somebody that's been in that life. And, I myself have had kind of a close relationship with the gang life growing up, having a lot of close family members in there, and just kind of seeing how those little people played out and whatever happened in their lives, all these little things that played out. Yeah. So we definitely want to kind of dive deep into this and obviously pick your brain. And, we're not doing this to, say people's names or do anything where we're, trying to find justice for anything. More so it's just...
No, this isn't about finding justice. Yeah. This is about deepening our understanding so that we can bridge the gap between... misunderstanding and understanding. Not only that for people that have been involved with it, that are still involved with it, for the people that have been affected by it, whether it's been through addictions, whether you were selling drugs, whether you were committing any kind of crime, whether you were a victim of a crime, it affects us all. And it's almost kind of taking a look at the culture and not necessarily saying, well, it's about this individual. It's never been about an individual, because half the time, the vast majority of the time, nobody grows up thinking I want to fucking be a gangster and I want to carry a gun and I want to carry I want to have a bulletproof vest and I want to have a gang and I want to sell drugs. There's something that happens with us on a physiological level that when you're deeply entrenched within that culture, you are actually in a very basic survival mode. Yep. So you are either wanting to fight or run away. Yep. You're fighting or running away. You're almost not in control of the real you. So I think starting off, I can kind of share with you how that happened for me. So when I grew up, I grew up in Abbotsford. My personality growing up was very happy-go-lucky, class clown. Moved around quite a bit, so I had that ability to make friends really quick. So I made friends really quick, and it wasn't until I was in high school that my best friend at the time introduced me to his older cousin, who we'll call H. So he introduces me to H. At this time when I was in high school, I was a pretty straight and narrow kid, very straight and narrow. I have a really good moral compass. That comes from my family, my upbringing. And for me to kind of go and do something like this, to kind of join H with what he was doing in, I call it the underworld, it was almost like a shock to my system, but I always think back that, I just always loved making friends. Loyalty is huge for me. Like, if my friend needed me for anything, like, I was gonna be there no matter what.
Yeah.
You could need me for a pep rally, or you need me because you're getting jumped, or you're going to a fight and you need me to bring a knife, or you need me to come and bring a baseball bat. Like, at that time, I didn't differentiate between like coming to your pep rally to support your sports team or helping you out because you're in a fight.
Yeah.
And at that time, for us too, not just meeting when I met H, it was like there was a big shift within our community. So growing up in Abbotsford, if you're from the Fraser Valley, you understand what kind of transpired during like the 80s and the 90s when we kind of started having gangs multiply. And of course, we're so close to the ports in Vancouver. It's so easy to bring the drugs in, right? It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
So we're close to the supply. And now you have this huge population everywhere. And now we have gangs everywhere influencing the communities. And so for me, what happened was I started out with him, clipping weed. It was like just clipping weed. I think everybody, we're the bud capital of Canada for how long? I think we still are. I don't know about now, but back then we were. And so I was clipping weed. Smoking a lot of weed at that time too, so that was something that really kind of shifted my mind, my behaviors. It completely altered my mental state, especially when I'm, you're 15, 16. So smoking a lot of weed, I noticed myself kind of falling out of contact with all the friends that I have in high school, and really it just became about hanging around with H and a few other guys. That was about it. I say I was in a gang, but it wasn't really a gang. It was a brotherhood. So, doing that, we were going from clipping weed, and then eventually it became to this one point where H wanted, he didn't trust anybody. So that's why it was a brotherhood. For the longest time, there was like 5 or 6 of us, then it kind of dwindled down to 3.
Yeah.
So me, H, and my other brother, who's called my brother because he is, H kind of was the captain. He laid out the blueprint. He was like, all right, we're going to do these jobs. And the jobs involved kicking in doors and robbing grow shows. And I'll kind of take you through like how that was. So you go from, first off, just clipping weed in itself was like, oh my God, what is this world? Yeah. Like, it's kind of exciting, but not really. I know for me, I just wanted the friendship, the connection, and I was loyal to it all. Like, I wasn't like I was ignorant to the dangers, but this deep sense of loyalty that I had was far surpassed any of those other feelings.
Yeah.
So, even that was such a huge shock to myself. But then, for when I remember the first time we did a job together, it was, he was very charismatic. I would have followed him to the ends of earth. And he was somebody I will, to this day, always consider my brother, regardless of what he had done in his past. Regardless of what maybe my family may have thought of how maybe he was manipulating me and he shouldn't have, influenced me to go into that lifestyle. But I remember the very first house that we kicked in, he gave a little bit of a speech. He was good like that, and he gave a little bit of a speech, and I was scared. I had a ski mask on, I had gloves on, I didn't have a gun at that time. That was the first job. And I remember he gave a little bit of a speech to kind of boost the morale. And he was like, there's a ranger code where there's no man left behind. I was like, okay, fuck, good. That makes me feel a little bit safer. Yeah. I'm like fucking younger. I was like five years younger than him. And still like kind of just still like it was like end of grade 12 year for me, and like kind of transitioning out of high school. So I was scared as fuck.
Yeah.
But that speech that he gave was a little bit more reassuring. We get in there, adrenaline's pumping, we leave, get the job done, and then we celebrate after. And there was something about being involved within the brotherhood. We'll talk about the effects of it. And I've always told people, and every time I talk about it, people are like, it's a very criminal thing to do. It's very horrible. It's very bad. But that old saying, it's just like people are like, I'd take a bullet for you.
Yeah.
It's like, I would have.
Yeah.
Anybody that I've ever met, even to this day, the nonprofit that I started, Mental Wealth, the tagline for so long was, no minds left behind.
Yeah.
I got that courage to really say, like, I'm not going to leave anybody behind. So that's where it comes from. I never told anybody that, right? They're just like, yeah, it's catchy. It's kind of what the army uses, but maybe I should have been in the army.
No.
I should have. I knew I should have. Like how militant, how much I aligned with the kind of like that militant lifestyle. So after that first job, we started living together. It was a brotherhood. It wasn't just like, oh, hey, we're a gang. It's like, no, we lived together. So we moved around together. The three of us, we moved around together. We did these jobs together. And it was a time where the only thing that kept me going was this love. I was dead, honestly, inside of me. Like I had lost that person who I was growing up in high school. I thought that person was gone. I didn't know where he went. Like I kind of shut down, and I would only listen. I remember H gave me like this. He gave me like this MP3 player, if you remember those.
Yeah.
He gave me like an MP3 player, and in between, like, because we'd go to the gym together, we'd drive around. If we weren't doing dirt, we'd be kind of just hanging out together, smoking weed. I remember when we started to kind of really get deeper into that underworld, I was very quiet and mute. So I would listen to that MP3 player a lot. And he'd be like, you always listen to a lot of music, man. I'm just like, because I don't know. And at that time, if I were to answer for myself, then I was like, I don't know how the fuck to process any of this shit, man. I don't know how I got here. I don't know what the fuck happened.
Yeah.
Because in high school, I had really good grades. Like I had very good grades, and it was like my teachers, you could do anything you want. My mom always used to say the same thing. She's like, you can do anything you want. But I just didn't know what I wanted to do. I just wanted to love my brothers. It's I think there's a very primal part of us too. It's just like this, speaking like just as a man, just like to be with your brothers, to know that you do anything for them. Like, I've always talked about the bad with everybody, and because I think I always felt like maybe that's what was culturally acceptable to really talk about, because I've done so much nonprofit work, and I really am. That's who I am. Like, but also like that person is a part of me. Like the person that's willing to die for those that he loves. Like, if it wasn't for H, I wouldn't have never accessed that.
Yeah.
I would have never have accessed that to understand that part of me that is there. That's not a violent individual. Like, I've never wanted to hurt anybody in my life, but I will protect my brothers.
Yeah.
I will protect my family. So I wouldn't have known that existed. I would never have ever known that existed. And this is very controversial because I can't really say this to my family, because they were so impacted by everything that happened. Like, I remember, the family got torn apart because of this. I got outcasted. I was fucking Simba, dude.
Yeah.
I was exiled.
Yeah.
I was exiled from the family, from my friends, everybody. And, but it was like, that brotherhood of the camaraderie of knowing that we had each other's backs no matter what, it instills you with this great sense of strength and confidence. It was like the three of us against fucking everybody.
Yeah.
So, you're in that lifestyle. You start to see shootings, you start to see stabbings, you start to see everything becomes a little bit more morbid. And then, because of that hollow feeling, that emptiness that I felt, that that loss, that deep loss I had of who I was. At that time, I didn't know, but I was grieving like that individual I was before I had met H. I was so empty that I started to take antidepressants. So now at this time, my life has gone from fucking sunny side to fucking cloudy thunderstorms all day, every day. And I remember just before I had moved out to live with H, I used to have like my bulletproof vest under my bed. I had a 4.5, and I had bundles of money, and I had my antidepressants there. And I can't imagine the first time that my mom ever found that. You know, what she must have felt inside of her. And that always put her in this state of panic for the longest time, man. That, that panic and that fear that was almost deeply embedded within her bones, like bone marrow deep, man. Mm-hmm. And so in that time, she sees that I leave the house, I go to live with my dad because it's not, I'm just so much static at home. I'm not respecting the house. Like, I'm smoking weed outside, and I got my little brother and sister, but I wasn't fully conscious. Mm-hmm. Like, the fucking lights were not on, man. Yep. Like, I can't even begin. Like, I couldn't connect to that old person, but all I could do is like, at least I had H, and at least this kind of loyalty and this brotherhood made some kind of sense to me to just put myself into, so I can not think and I can just follow the leader, So we're doing that for quite some time. Got pretty much kind of kicked out of my dad's house, moved in with H full time, continued to do these jobs, and then one night. We're having this barbecue, me, H, a couple other really good buddies. And he hugs me at this barbecue. The guy fucking never hugs me. Yeah. Right? Like, he's the general. Like, he's very, very fucking... He's like King Kong mentality. Like, you remember that fucking scene in Training Day where Denzel's fucking... He's like, King Kong ain't got shit on me? Yeah. That was fucking H. But that was who he was. Like, he fucking grew up in the wrong fucking era, man. Yeah. Like there was something about him, like, if he was able to channel that intelligence, that charisma, he could have led others to do so much more and such great things in life. So he gives me this hug, King Kong, H, and then about an hour after that, we part ways, but then an hour or two after that, we find out that he gets murdered. At that time, I remember I get the phone call from somebody like that's really close to me saying that he was murdered. And then I shut down. I'm angry, I shut down. I have no idea what's going on. The series of events that occurred after that are like this. It's kind of like, I'm afraid. Detectives are coming to the house every day, following me around, trying to enter the house. My mom's slamming, like, at this time I moved back home to be with my family. They're so worried about me. Detectives are just trying whatever they could to kind of get some kind of information from me. And I fucking shut down. Yeah. I completely shut down. I'm fucking taking these antidepressants, looking out my window. I was like filled with this. It was equal amount of fear and anger. I didn't know what to do. I just shut down. Like, I wanted to fucking murder, but who? I didn't know. Yeah. I didn't know where to even begin, man. It's the fucking wild, wild west out here. So it's like, where do I even begin? And then what? And now I'm fearing for my family. Yeah. So that inevitably led to my mom uprooting my entire family, moving us to India. So you got to look at the silver lining. That's why I look at the silver lining. For so many years I wanted to take a look back at, almost discard that from my life. It never happened. Even some of our friends and everybody, like sometimes I never really go into detail with it because I tell them a little bit. They're like, "Oh, you're a beast, bro, fucking beast." It's like, I'm not a beast, man.
No.
I'm Vick.
Yeah.
I never did it for clout. I did it for my brothers.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have fucking any jewelry. I never got any tattoos. I only got one till years later, a memorial tattoo. But other than that, I did it for my brothers, plain and simple. It's the same kind of love that I give anybody that I work with in mental health. I think that's kind of how I can almost explain it to people. Like, you don't understand. Like, if I meet you for a minute, I will give you my life.
Yeah.
I will have your back. I'm not just talking like, if you need me to help you move, which by the way, I just did move, Sunny, so I might need a little help.
Yeah, anytime.
but like, no, I will do anything willingly for you. And that's something that I'm very proud of, that I know that is, I'm not just saying that to say it. It's something that I think we're all capable of doing for our loved ones, which is, it's beautiful, but now I get to kind of transmute that kind of anger and that and channel into some really, it's like channeling that anger into aggression to allow me to utilize that energy in other areas of my life for the better. Mm-hmm. So, getting back to that, story, because as you can tell, like, I never really talk about this. I'll be as articulate as you want about all these other subjects, but this time I can even feel myself as I'm talking about it. Like I'm there, Sunny.
Yeah.
Like I'm there. I feel it again. I'm there, and it's just like, fucking feels good to air it out. Feels good to air it out. It's just like, if you want to talk about the culture and like why maybe some young men get involved in this, fucking look at the economics too. Okay? Don't just fucking always say the family.
Yeah.
So what? My fucking mother and father are fucking saints. Man.
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with them. Look at the economics. Look at the school system. Like, I didn't know what I wanted to do in school. Look at where we're getting the drugs, man.
Yeah.
Look at how easily accessible it is. Look at all these other factors before we start to just blame anybody. Yeah. But then look at the core, maybe a core reason why some of these young guys get involved in gangs. They are wanting connection. They want brotherhood.
Yeah.
They want solidarity. They want to know that somebody is there for them no matter what. After I went through that, I don't want surface level friends.
Yeah.
I need to know, like, I don't know, maybe it's just my programming now. Like, I need to know, like, if you're in my like inner circle, like, I need to know, like, you're willing to be there for me just as much as I'm there for you.
Yeah.
And it's not so much like, oh yeah, let's give these kids a hug. That's not going to solve it, man. That's not going to solve it. What needs to happen is, it's like, it felt good to kind of let the steam out the kettle for my story. But now as I think about the people that I've worked with, the young boys that I've mentored, the men that I've worked with, the women, the elderly, working with them mentally to help them better their mental and emotional well-being. All I can say is it's not just in gang life where people go searching for connection. It's just in life in general.
Yeah, no, it's good hearing you aired out. I wanted to kind of give you your opportunity before I jumped in and interjected, because obviously I have a lot of questions. You know, personally, I've had my brother in that life for a long time, so I never dip my feet too deep in the gang life. So obviously, there's all these questions that come up to me, and I think the main one, just listening to your story, most of the gangsters I've seen in my entire life have been two-sided. So either you have the one side of a gangster that's that greedy motherfucker that's just there for greed, money, partying, and all that kind of lifestyle, and manipulating the the youth and trying to get his name to the top. And then there's the opposite side, someone like you that's just finding loyalty, solidarity, brotherhood, trying to just they're not there for the money and all that. They know that's already a part of the lifestyle, something that's going to assist them throughout whatever they're trying to do. But they're just the people there to find that friendship, find that bond to people that are like-minded to them, just because maybe they're not getting along with other people, their same age group, so they go for somebody a little bit older. So I've seen that there's those two different types of gangsters.
Yeah.
And I see you on the side of more of the solidarity. That's my brotherhood. And on my brother's side, I've seen more of the, the power that, how much power you want to gain and what that power kind of gives you a benefit of. But I want to ask you, basically, living with these people. So I've seen that, with my brother too, living with other gangsters once you're in that lifestyle. Like, once you were living with these guys, what was the mindset of everybody else that's with you? We got a chance to, hear your mindset. But while you're in this life, are you ever looking at the people around you and trying to kind of get an understanding of their mindsets and where they're from and what there is? Or is it just, as long as we're continuing to do this and everybody's loyal, I don't give a fuck what you guys really do?
It's a jungle, man.
Yeah.
It's like you have, for me specifically, I won't talk about anybody else, but I'll just talk about for me, it's like, no, you have our leader, we have our general. Like, he was making the blueprint.
Yeah.
Like, he had the business plan. He was the one influencing us and inspiring us to find this kind of courage, to do these kind of things. But also, yes, there was some mild manipulation there. Like, and I know that, but I forgive him for that. I remember after that, before I went into the psych ward, I remember my mom took me to see a therapist. And I remember he was like, he took me to the second floor in Abbotsford of his building, and we go into this room. It's a big room, and I say the second floor because what he asked me to do is, while we're talking there, he's like, I want you to express, some maybe feelings for H that you had pent up, that were angry, because I was angry at him.
Yeah.
I was angry at him putting my life in danger. Him dying, like, I tried to keep the guy alive. You have no idea. Like, for so much, I'm like, we don't need to be doing half of this shit. These fucking fights and this and that. Like, what are we doing? Like, I tried so much to rescue him. It's fucked up. Like, I would try to rescue him while I was in that life. And so the therapist, he's like, I want you to imagine that you're talking to him, and what would you say to him? So we're on the second floor, and I look down and I yell as much as I can, because in my head I'm like, maybe he's in hell, so I'm gonna yell down towards hell and scream at him for what he did to me.
Yeah.
And I'm screaming, and the therapist is like, fucking, no, stop, there's people downstairs. I'm like, no fucking ask me, man.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Like, it's not like, but like, yeah, even now I look back at this and I just think, like, for that kind of individual, like, you're right, like, there is two types. I think there's it's a little bit more than that. It's not like kind of like a black and white scenario. There's so many variables. There's a little bit of like random.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of random. You add this person and this person together, fucking, it could happen, right? It's all about environments too. You never know what could happen in this type of an environment, this type of climate. So it's H was one of those people. He wanted, he watched a lot of Sopranos. His idols were like, the type of music we were listening to, like Kicking the Door Without the 4/4. Like, we're listening to fucking this gangster rap, deeply kind of resonating with us. So in my mind, I'm like, we're listening to the rap, we're watching the movies, we're involved in the culture. So it wasn't just him. Yeah. He didn't fucking like, it wasn't like H was just like fucking just pedaling and like sitting in like elementary school. He wasn't like a fucking like a full-blown gangster when he was a little kid, man. That kid, he played on the swing set. He played with his friends on the street. He played hockey. Like he like something influenced him to go astray, to think that this kind of life would be a life worth living. Yeah. Like, nobody, I promise you, nobody, if they had the opportunity, no matter what region you're in the world, nobody, if they had the opportunity, would be in a gang. Yeah. Nobody would be committing crime. Nobody. You think they want to for the clout? They want security. They want the camaraderie. They want the brotherhood. That's why some people, there are certain personalities, like, if they didn't have the army, they would be in the fucking gang. Yeah. Yeah. Right? So it's like you can't demonize. I have this strong sense of forgiveness for even the people that murdered him. I have a strong sense of forgiveness. I can't carry that anymore. Mm-hmm. It's been over 15 years. I can't carry that. I used to get angry at the government. I'm like, how are you guys letting all these drugs come in? Yeah. You guys can fucking fly to the moon, but you can't stop fucking guns and drugs coming in through our border? Really? And then you want to fucking throw us in jail because of it? Like, there was such deep-seated anger inside of me. I was angry at the government. I was angry at the people that murdered him. I was angry at H. I was angry at myself. You know, and all that anger, what it does, Sunny, it takes you away from the truth of it all. That what's needed so desperately within our community is connection, leadership. You know, where are the fucking Mr. Rogers?
Yeah.
Where are the, you know, where are the strong influences inspiring us to want to do better, want to live and search for our own values and our morals and develop a good moral compass?
Yeah.
You know, they're not teaching us ethics and values in school.
No,
they're teaching me fucking pi times this equals this. I don't know, fuck pi, man.
Yeah.
Teach me how to manage my emotions. Nobody's teaching you how to manage your emotions. Nobody's teaching you about your mental health. Nobody's teaching you about your physicality, about how to kind of feel strong so you don't have to go and hurt somebody else. Yeah. Nobody's doing that. We're playing fucking dodgeball.
Yeah.
What do you, fuck this dodgeball, man. I have this love relationship and this almost kind of, it's not linear, man. It's like the way I feel about this, it fucking goes all around, and like I can hate it, I can love it, I can understand it. You know, I would say, well, okay, if we're going to specifically talk about the school system, because I know I'm jumping around here, but like the school system, man, some of my elementary school teachers they instilled such good values in me. Just them as people, like their desire, not fuck the curriculum and the system, like, but just my teachers. I've had the most phenomenal teachers that made it such a good impact in my life, that helped develop and shape my character, that if it wasn't for them, I probably wouldn't have the capacity to think and be as creative as I have with some of these initiatives that I've done in mental health. Yeah. But as far as the system goes, fuck the system that they got put into. Like, they are such good quality teachers. You know, I'm not gonna completely disregard the school system and say it's all fucking nonsense, because you gotta look at the silver lining, just like I did with H. You know, like what he had shown me that I was capable of doing for my brothers. Like, that's just something that I'm very proud of. Mm-hmm. Like, being there for my brothers, no matter what. And even with the school system, like, I take the good and the bad. I'll just focus more on the positives. You know, take a look at our culture too. Like, you know, I mentioned music. Okay, talk about different influences. Lack of structure in school. Okay, lack of certain classes that should be fundamental, like teaching kids. Just start teaching them philosophy in high school. Teach them how to think, not what to think. Just let's teach them how to think. Let's teach them some basics, some fundamentals of your mental and your emotional health, and the to-dos, you know, that you could do consistently, so you can get a good baseline with your state of mind, where you're not kind of feeling anxious all the time, and learn how to identify that and how to cope with that. Yeah. With the music, what's the good and the bad? Well, music is very inspirational, but man, if I'm listening to like fucking the type of music I used to listen to way back in the day, like I still do sometimes in the gym. Maybe that's why when we were talking about earlier before we started, it's just like I'm fucking doing triple sets and like I'm sweating and like it looks like I'm fucking just like fighting for my life.
Kicking in a different door.
Kicking in a different door, bro. It's just all it is. It's just like it's like a steroid for me. Like I'm still listening to some old school gangster rap, and it's like a switch.
I want to kind of jump back into, you know, you talked about how you got into it and kind of, the path that it led to, but the end of it, you know, the final chapter of being in a gang and figuring it out, which is sometimes the hardest thing to do. How you kind of said, you know, it was just too late to find something else that you could fall in love with and continue that. And I think, you know, that's the tale of nowadays in these gangs, that nobody gets to, get that final chapter of getting out. It might be a final chapter of their life or final chapter of, finding drugs or all these other things that might lead them down a totally different path. But what was your final chapter like in the gang, and how did you get out? And what was your mindset of having to get out? And what was that little thing that kind of clicked?
The final chapter was when he was murdered. Actually, no. The final chapter wasn't when he was murdered. The final chapter, I think for a bit, was when he was murdered. But when I came back from India, I started connecting with people still in that lifestyle because, I had been kind of exiled from my old life. So it was easier to connect with them. But I think the final chapter, I don't think there is a final chapter, if I can be honest. I've kept this in for so long, Sunny, and I think the final chapter for me is connecting with as many young guys as I can to inspire them to take a different path. That'll be my final chapter.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally understand that. I was just kind of trying to get at, okay, H dies.
Yeah.
Now you're still kind of in the life. You go to India. You're still kind of chit-chatting with your friends that are out here. So in your mind, you still kind of feel like you're still a part of it. But what was that moment where you had to just click that off and shut some of those friends down, let that life kind of go, and then maybe you reconnected with those friends?
That was the psych ward. That was the blessing. That was probably like the when I got tossed in the psych ward because of all of that. As I talked about in our first episode briefly, that would have been the nail in the coffin. Not the first time, but kind of the second time. The nail in the coffin was that, because then I was just as exiled as you could have been. So the isolation of not having any relationships put me in a position to connect back with myself. Mm-hmm. So there's that silver lining too. Again, I think it's important to have these discussions, but I think it's important to understand that you're not going to be able to truly make an impact with these individuals if you've never lived their life. Mm-hmm. That's it. You could be a politician, you could talk about it, but what kind of direct involvement have you had in that lifestyle? Yeah. How can you relate to them? No. Your parents, they're in a state of panic and worry and fear. They can't think clearly to be able to even begin to take action to help these youth. Yeah. For me, honestly, if I were to tidy all this up, I shared this bit of my story, which I never, I never wanted to sell it. I never wanted to share it with people to kind of gain some kind of, gain something from it in terms of their attention. Yeah. Or, I don't want to just say I did this stuff and be like, oh, well, fucking Vick's a gangster. I never wanted to do that. Now, why I'm sharing this now is because I know my end game. Mm-hmm. If I'm going to share this, I will be able to connect with as many youth as possible just within the Lower Mainland to start. That's why I moved back to Abbotsford. That's why I did everything, is because I have unfinished business and I have been waiting and I've been working away at it with this initiative so that I could come back, allow my message to mature, share with them what is possible in a different environment, with a different outlook. And no matter how deep you've been entrenched in this lifestyle, you can come out. Yeah. And you can come out and you can change not just yourself, but your whole outlook on life. Yeah. And what you're capable of doing. And you can connect back with yourself, that maybe the piece of you that died before you entered that lifestyle, and you can connect back with that individual and you can pick up where you left off. And I promise you it's possible. Yeah. And I promise you it just takes heart. It takes commitment. And that's what I always will bring towards this type of endeavor when it comes to talking to youth, to help them find some inspiration. So I talked about where the fuck Mr. Rogers at. That's okay. Yeah. I'll be fucking Mr. Rogers. Yeah. A little bit of Mr. Rogers, a little bit of Tupac, a little bit of blend.
Yeah, a little bit of blend. And I think that's what the youth need, because sometimes parents, how you've had your mom kind of telling you, get out of the lifestyle, that's all they can really say. It's just one choice or the other. And it's not sometimes informative for a child to listen to their parents. It's just something as a kid where you're turned against, right? So I think we have to find different choices for kids and youth that there is different possibilities, different ways to get out of this. You know, your final chapter, everybody's final chapter in a certain lifestyle or a certain part of their life is going to be different. And how you said, you know, you had to go to a psych ward, and that was kind of something that turned your kind of mindset around. That's not what you wanted to do. And some people, it's, you know, jail, a close person that dies, or you find somebody that comes into your life, you know, a significant other that changes your life and perspective on just what you're doing. So I think there's all these different things that, you know, we're going to try to touch on and try to help the youth figure out whichever way is the best way for them to kind of get through it, because nobody's the same. And we've seen that in our lives and lives around us, that it's going to be something that'll maybe click for some people and some things won't. But it's good to just get out everything and talk to more people that have been in this lifestyle. Just as you've kind of brought your story up, I want to be able to bring on more people that bring these kind of stories out and different perspectives, because, you know, they're on different spectrums of this lifestyle. Some have the more brotherhood style and some have more of, you know, this other typical style. So we want to be able to definitely break it down and get all these mindsets, because just how you said, it's hard to get some of these things out. And, you know, you could say a little bit to somebody that I was a part of this, but nobody really knows that background of how you got into it and all that.
Well, if you want to talk about, like, okay, well, what else can we do? It's like, you can talk. And I've always, you know, the reason why I didn't decide to, like, kind of like share the story is because I didn't need to talk to. Like, I connect with kids that are going through similar circumstances right now, and I'll never stop connecting with them. You know, I work with them one-on-one, and I work with them in groups. But I've never had to kind of publicly share this story because I started to take action. So first and foremost, you can take action. You can find an initiative, a local initiative that's doing something. Like, there's one that's really good that I believe in. They're the Young Guns. You know, they help youth get into weightlifting, right? That's just the basic premise of their organization. If you feel aligned with an organization that's inspiring and empowering the youth, get involved with them. Do some research. Go take a look around within your community. Find these different resources. Market those resources on your social media. Share it with people. Find one that you really deeply align with. Get involved. See how you can help. If there's none, create your own.
And I think that action can only happen if we allow and put that information out there. You know, sometimes people just don't know where to find that. They don't have the time. They don't want to. It's just something that's not in their mindset until they hear it. So those kind of things click. Like, I've found youth programs. I never went searching for them. Those are something that have organically came to me. Just finding them on social media. Kids Play Foundation, I bring that one up a lot. Kids Play, just because the person that runs it, Cal DeSange, I've seen him, you know, do talks about it, speeches, and kind of when I heard those speeches, it kind of It inspired me for sure to actually pay attention to the youth, want to do some work with them, volunteer, and just put my time and effort in there just by hearing a story. So sometimes for some people, it's not that we want to talk about sides and all that. It's just giving out that information to people to be like, you know what, here's one program. You brought up the Young Guns, and that's I've seen that with Mamba's team. They do a lot of work together. So those are things that, you know, you see from somebody else doing it, and that could kind of get somebody else into doing it. So those are things that we definitely...
You know what? Get creative. I used to organize open mics for youth. You know, I used to organize open mics for youth. I mentor youth. I did group programs. And I didn't need any money. And I always can say this to people, because when you're having this conversation, a lot of the times people will say, "Oh, we need more funding." There are resources available. Go and look for them. And if you can't find any, create some. That's it. Other than that, it's like, because I can understand. You know, I can understand the getting online and typing and getting angry. I can understand the frustration. I can understand the fear. I can understand how sometimes you only feel like the only thing you have in the form of action is talking about it. But I promise you, for somebody that's talked about it in my 20s, who has been in a psych ward trying to manage these emotions and try to understand and process this all, I can tell you at the end of it, when I've sifted through it all, it just comes back to just taking action and doing it from your heart. And when you can do that, you can really, it's not going to be so much like, I'm doing this to save kids. I'm doing this, if I don't do it, they're fucked. No, I'm doing this because out of genuine care and love to create. And it's a different vibe that you put off. It's a different energy that you're putting forward when you do it from a space of like, I want to create. I'm not trying to save, because then you got everybody running around, especially the parents are running around like chickens with their heads cut off. Like it's just like they're screaming. Like, I remember my family going through this. We can find a different way. It doesn't have to be something where we have to get so angry to the point. And I know I still get angry about it. It's natural. It's okay. You can let this steam out the tea kettle just a little bit. But once that emotion subsides of that anger and that frustration, we can get to work.
Yeah.
And the work is a beautiful service. And we talked about Seva. It's Seva.
Yeah.
To want to go and give back to your community. We've been all impacted by this, directly or indirectly, especially in the East Indian community. Have we not?
Yeah.
You can't say anybody. They know somebody who knows somebody, or their cousin, or their brother, or they've been involved. And it's been around for so many years, decades now, that it's now deeply embedded within our culture. Mm-hmm. So let's not look at this like it's a crisis. Let's look at the opportunities.
Yeah.
And if we can look at the opportunities, I promise they will present themselves.
Yeah.
But if we continue to focus on the crisis, then you're not going to be able to see through that fucking veil of anger.
Yeah.
And there's no clarity there.
Without
the clarity, you're not going to take action.
Yeah.
So, no, I feel good about this, Sunny. So thanks for letting me holding the space and doing this, because this is being able to just kind of share that, begin to share that and articulate why I do what I've done is very helpful for me, because it's almost like this was therapy for me, man.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't get to see that side of people. Again, we always say that, like, there's so many different personalities within us, and I think you might see somebody randomly on the street that, they weren't in the gang life, but they've committed some crimes in their life, and they learned something from that and made a good life. So we don't get to sometimes pick their brain about those things, because people don't want to bring those up sometimes. They don't want to say the crimes they've done and how that's actually affected their life in both a positive or a negative way. So it's, it's a good thing that you're able to speak up like this. And another point I just wanted to bring up is how you kind of brought up the funding. You're right. You don't have to be doing any of this kind of work or youth programs and have to find funding. You just have to find time out of your day to provide something. Yeah. People provide, soccer for an hour for kids, something like that out of their day at like 5 to 6. I have friends that have started a roller hockey league here in Abbotsford just for the youth. Or if you are looking for funding, look at people that are already in that field, basically.
Sunny, before COVID, when I was living in Okotoks, I had 40 events a month going on. I had no money, man. Mm-hmm. I was getting so broke. Like, it wasn't a non-profit, it was a no profit. I was making no money. But the reason I was able to do those events is because of collaboration within the community. Yeah. If you can do this with pure intention and you can collaborate with others, they will open their doors. The businesses open their doors. They donated space. I had friends who would donate their time to teach and different, like, we were doing meditation classes, yoga classes, open mics, business networking events. Whatever we could, we were doing mental health empowerment groups facilitated by traditional and non-traditional mental health professionals, because I went and I asked them, I shared a vision, I shared my desire, and they saw that. They reciprocated because they had similar passions to want to give back, and that's all it took. And we had 40 events popping for free for the community, and people were coming. Yeah. It took no money. It took heart. It took a little bit of vision, but it took this humble attitude to understand we don't do this alone. And anything I've ever done in this work, I will never, ever not give credit to the people who believed in me. Yeah. Without them, I would have never been able. They opened their doors. They helped support mental health. You did too when we first met. Like, you'd help me record my first TikTok because I was trying to get back into public speaking. COVID shut everything down. But, like, people are there to help. Yeah. So when I could only get, that agreement from them when they could tell that I was doing it from my heart. Yeah. If I was angry, they'd be like,
Exactly. It's how you reach out. Sometimes we're scared of just reaching out to people to ask them simple questions or ask them for assistance on something. And it's just reaching out. You got to try with people. And if you are coming with pure intentions, those people will see them by the words and the actions that you're bringing or what you're showcasing to them. So I think sometimes some people reach out too early and they don't really have that vision. So it's hard for the person that you're reaching out to see. So sometimes you do have to have that vision before you reach out, just so they see those pure intentions of what you're actually trying to do. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing that kind of comes out of this, is having pure intentions with what you're trying to do.
Pure intentions, right? Like, it's like, I'm not doing any of this work I'm doing within mental wealth, with any of these programs or classes. I have not done any of those without those pure intentions. And I know if I'm not on my A game, I just won't put myself out there. And when I talk about my A game, it's just like, okay, I got to do a little bit more work on myself. You know, I got to unpack these emotional wounds. I don't like to call them trauma. Sometimes that word is misinterpreted quite a bit. They're emotional wounds. That's how I look at them. You know, sometimes they come up and it's just like, all right, I got to take a time out. I've been working within the community for far too long, and now I got to work on Vick. I come back to it and kind of refresh my mind, my body, my spirit, and we get back to work. So yeah, I'm also excited about coming on this podcast to hopefully to any of the listeners, if they are working within mental health, if they are working in any capacity, you're a psychologist, you're a therapist, you run a sports program, you want to start something, get in touch with me. Okay, because that's why I am back in Abbotsford. I've done it in other communities, but I really strongly want to get back to the city I was born in. This is my home. My Bind is Abbotsford. Bind, for anybody that doesn't know, that just means your home village in India. And this is my home that I've been away from so long, but it feels good to be back. And all I want to do now is connect with as many like-minded individuals and see if we can't make some more good things happen for not only the youth, but just for all minds.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to kind of end it off there.
Yeah, all right.
Man.